Are we truly aware of who we are and what all the aspects of our personality are? There are parts of us that are deeply hidden and repressed, and in most cases, we are the ones who have done this, out of fear. These repressed and unconscious parts of our personality are something Carl Jung studied for a long time. He believed that the shadow is a part of the personality that is repressed and rejected, either consciously or unconsciously, by our persona, the part of the personality that is designed as a mask for our ego, which we wear on our face every day to present ourselves to the world. Very often, the persona and the shadow have no points of contact. They are two opposite sides of the personality, so it's no wonder that they are difficult to develop and bring into balance. The persona, being one of the most essential parts of a person's personality, begins to develop very early. It's a tool that helps the mind protect itself, develop its personality, and enables us to fit into society and socialize. The problem is not the persona itself. It's an essential part of our personality that plays a very important role. The problem is that a person can easily become obsessed with their persona, and over the years, through it, completely forget about their shadow, postponing their own development and integration of it, which leads to numerous problems in life. As Carl Jung stated in a psychological approach to the dogma of the Trinity, the situation which is more common and more familiar to the average man is that in which the ego identifies itself with the ethical values. The identification takes place by means of an identification of the ego with the persona. The ego confuses itself with the facade personality, which is of course in reality only the part of the personality that is tailored to fit the collective, and forgets that it possesses aspects which run counter to the persona. This means that the ego has repressed the shadow side and lost touch with the dark contents, which are negative and for this reason split off from the conscious sector. The shadow is not necessarily something bad, rather it represents parts of us that we have forgotten or discarded, like old objects in the basement. But just as the basement of a house is still part of the house, the objects are as well, even though they are forgotten. That basement is not just a wasted space. Those objects have been left there to rot, but they could probably still be used for something. The difference is that the shadow is on a completely different level, because these parts of the personality are not like old useless objects or wasted spaces, but powerful elements of our personality that we feared so much because of their power that we locked them in the basement and never dared to open those doors again. And as more time passed, the fear of our own shadow grew, perhaps justifiably so, because no part of the personality likes to be rejected and forgotten, and over time it really becomes dangerous and toxic. Just like a parrot looks for every opportunity to escape from its cage, the shadow seeks its moment to emerge, but when it doesn't emerge consciously, it becomes a dangerous, unpredictable and destructive force. When forgotten and ignored, it can manifest through destructive behavioral patterns, addictions, aggression, or unconscious choices that lead us further away from true development. For example, a person who is constantly nervous and avoids conflicts may not be aware that they are repressing aggressive impulses, and their unconscious fear of a confrontation will eventually culminate in unpredictable anger that surfaces during moments of stress. However, the shadow doesn't have to be like this at all, because the natural shadow, when properly integrated, is an untapped strength and potential that has been waiting within you for many years. Jung said in Psychological Aspects of the Persona the following: everyone carries a shadow, and the less it is embodied in the individual's conscious life, the blacker and denser it is. At all counts, it forms an unconscious snag, thwarting our most well-meant intentions. Of course, there are parts of the shadow that are negative by all social standards, and these are the parts of the personality we fear the most, and because of them, we reject anything related to the shadow. Few people want to admit that they have the potential to do evil, and so they don't even think about it, completely ignoring such thoughts, thinking they will save themselves by doing so. But as we previously stated, suppressing and ignoring thoughts and parts of the personality is anything but wise. By ignoring the shadow for too long, a person risks allowing the shadow autonomy to grow, and eventually the conscious parts of the personality may become subordinated to the shadow. Only by integrating the shadow can a person gain absolute control both over the benefactor and the devil within. Only by integrating the shadow can a person take an additional step toward becoming whole. Integration doesn't just bring balance, it allows us to become more aware and empathetic toward others. In this way, not only do we develop as individuals, but we can also contribute to a healthier social environment. As Carl Jung observed, this integration of the shadow cannot take place and be put to a useful purpose unless one can admit the tendencies bound up with the shadow and allow them some measure of realization, tempered, of course, with the necessary criticism. This leads to disobedience and self-disgust, but also to self-reliance, without which individual is unthinkable. But the benefits of integrating the shadow don't stop there. Once you successfully integrated the shadow, accept who you are, and maybe even realize the parts of evil that may be boiling within you, it will suddenly unlock the possibility to defend yourself from it, whether it comes from within or from the outside. Only by knowing the darkness that steers in your heart can you fight the darkness in other hearts, and only in this way can you effectively recognize and protect yourself and your loved ones. Ignoring the shadow makes us vulnerable because we unconsciously reject parts of ourselves, making us unaware and incapable of recognizing dangers, both within and in the world around us. Because if you convince yourself that the shadow doesn't exist within you, it's very likely that you won't see it in others either. So, how do we integrate the shadow? It's important to note that the process of individuation is very subjective, often uncomfortable, and a task that lasts a lifetime, with each person solving it in a different way. However, there are a few guidelines that will successfully set you on this path. First, we integrate it through awareness. Go deep into that cave and look the dragon in the eye. Scratch beneath your mask and find what's there. Write down your thoughts, your hidden desires, your addictions, and why you think they manifested. Pay special attention to the things you dislike, to those parts of yourself you have an almost instinctual need to reject, because these are often the very parts of yourself you need to explore. By taking this step, you already solved a large part of the problem, but no matter how trivial it sounds, don't fool yourself. It's not easy. Slowly, as you get to know your hidden self, you bring your unconscious thoughts to the conscious side. After so many years of ignoring them, you say, "Yes, I see you," and just by doing this, you'll feel an incredible relief in your soul, which no longer needs to lie to itself. Then things that help in self-discovery are keeping a journal, especially a dream journal. Jung believed that dreams are often one of the ways our repressed thoughts try to escape. And of course, since the process of individuation is primarily an emotional experience, anything that stirs emotion and passion within you can also lead to deeper insight, particularly creative activities like writing, painting, and making music. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Jung believed. Finally, we all carry a shadow. The path of integration is not easy, but it is necessary for growth. When we recognize the shadow, we stop running away from our fears, insecurities, and the unconscious impulses. Instead, we become capable of shaping them, learning from them, and using them for our personal transformation. Self-awareness is not something that comes easily, but it is the most important path toward wellness. Move toward yourself, move toward your shadow. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes.